Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we have kind of an exciting guest today that's doing something a little different out in the book promotion world. So guys, hang on. I'll introduce her in a minute. Don't forget to go over and grab your free subscription to Breakthrough Author Magazine. You can find that at www.breakthroughauthormagazine.com. It's a monthly magazine with tips and tricks and all sorts of stuff on platform building, because y'all forget to build your platform. So go over and grab your free copy. And then remember, we have some new stuff going on this year. We have our I Love Content Creation course. We're going to be putting that up. In fact, by the time this is out, it might be up already. We're going to have a downloadable DIY version if you're not ready to jump into the live workshop. And also, if you're just thinking about writing the book, we have two really great new courses: Prep Your Expert Book, 3 modules on platform building, book development, and publishing. All the things you need to know before you jump in and find out that there are things later that you should have done. $47, made it super reasonable. We also have another new course, buildyourauthoravatar.com. And that is all about doing the deep dive market research to make sure that you have a niche audience that is truly broken down and well researched the way you should. That is the easiest way to sell products and services. So go check that out as well. It's $97, and just a lot of good stuff going on this year for our authors. So our guest today is Marianne Sciucco. And Marianne is not a nurse who writes, but a writer who also happens to be a nurse. She's using her skills and experience to create stories that bear witness to the humanity in all of us. She writes contemporary, women's, and young adult fiction. She's a lover of words and books, and she studied the craft of writing as an English major at the University of Massachusetts at Boston, and worked for a time as a newspaper reporter in New England. And she eventually became a registered nurse to avoid poverty. I love that. With more than 20 years experience as a staff nurse and case manager, she's worked with countless families dealing with issues related to aging, elder care, Alzheimer's, and nursing home placement. In 2002, she put together and began writing about the intricate lives of people struggling with health and family issues. She published her debut novel, Blue Hydrangeas, an Alzheimer's love story, in 2013 to glowing reviews. And this led her to become the co-founder and director of AlzAuthors, the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's, dementia, from personal experience to light the way for others. She's a podcast producer and the host for Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia and AlzAuthors podcast. So that's really exciting. Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh gosh, I appreciate what you're doing out there. So we got together because we are helping Amy McGanum get her first book out there, and it's a fiction novel that talks about, it's sexy seniors and love, but it's also about Lewy body syndrome. Is it Lewy body syndrome? Is that how you?
Lewy body dementia.
Dementia. Okay. So I'm really excited about this as a new genre because when you and I talk, senior romance is so much different than, young love and midlife love and just all sorts of different considerations. And I like the way you put Alzheimer's into that. So tell us a little bit about Blue Hydrangea. Like, where did that come from? What inspired you to do this?
I was inspired by a couple I met in my work. I worked in a hospital as a case manager. And I met this couple one day. She had Alzheimer's. Her husband, he was very frail. They were in their 80s, and she had fallen and needed to go into another rehab unit for more long-term rehabilitation. So at the time, they just captivated me. She was just so lovely, and he was so doting. And when the son came, and he wanted to take his parents from the hospital to the facility on his own. And he asked me if he could do that. And I said he could. And then later they just kept haunting me. And I was thinking about them all the next day, wondering what would happen if the son came and the parents had already taken off. where would they go? What would they do? And so that became the foundation of my story.
Mhm. Oh,
Mm.
that is beautiful. And so many people later on in life, I'm 60, almost probably 62 by the time this comes
Mhm.
out, and it just becomes harder. There's kids, there's this illness. Like that's what I loved about Amy's book was, there are parts in it, and she got fabulous Kirkus reviews. There are parts in
Mhm.
it when you're not sure if it's her character's in today or if she's in sort of that dementia area. And I'm sure that's
Mhm.
really hard when you're working in that sort of field to, sort of ferret out what's real and what's not with your patients and your family.
Oh yeah, for sure. You don't know, who you're going to get that day, which one is it? Or from moment to moment, things can change abruptly. So you're kind of on your toes all the time.
Yeah. So you
Mm.
published your first book, right? Blue Hydrangeas, you published on your own.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was quite an ordeal.
That's so funny because I coached Amy through it and Amy through it, and she says the same thing, like, oh my gosh, the things you don't know, the
Yeah.
things I'm learning. So yeah, it can be quite a journey. So what inspired you to put this group together? Because that's really what I wanted to talk about today, is you
Mhm.
have put together a promotional group, a very large one. Tell us about that, how
Yeah.
that all came together and what you guys are up to.
So after I had published my book, I quickly realized I didn't have any kind of a platform or anything, notoriety to launch it from, which is important. So after like all my friends and family bought it, I was out there on my own. And I joined a group called Clean Indie Reads on Facebook. And it was a group of authors who would cross promote each other's books via their blog, social media, newsletter swaps, all kinds of different strategies. And I was very active in that. And a little while, I thought to myself, gee, I wonder if there would be other people who had written books on Alzheimer's or dementia that might want to get together and kind of do the same thing. It seemed like a no-brainer. And I knew a few people and I reached out to them, and there were 5 of us to start. And we did a 1-month campaign in June of 2015. Just to help cross promote each other's books using social media, blog, whatever. And there were 3 of us who were really active in it. And we discovered that we really liked each other. And we decided to get back together in November. We did it again. And then the following year in June, because it's Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, we decided to launch the blog. And our goal at that point was, instead of talking about ourselves, we would introduce a new author every day for a month and focus on their book and ask them to write a blog post. And at the end of the month, we still had authors that wanted to be a part of it. So we said, well, why don't we just do it once a week and we'll see what happens. And that was six years ago, almost 7 years ago. So now we have over 300, close to 350 authors in our organization. All have written a book from personal experience about Alzheimer's and dementia, majority independently published. They've never written a book before. They will not write a book again. And they're just trying to get their story out. And we cross promote each other via, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, our newsletter. We have a robust newsletter. We have a YouTube channel. We have our website, which is full of resources. We do the podcast. We have virtual events, and we have other things too. So we're really busy.
Yeah, no, I love this idea because I chatted with you a little bit before and talked about, so before, I don't think I mentioned I had a podcast that was Ask Juliet, and it was
Mhm.
really frustrating because authors would want to get on and promote their book, but they not only didn't have a platform, they didn't have a media kit, they didn't have any of the things they need. So I actually gave that up because it was like chasing cats. I mean, herding
Mhm.
cats. It was just really difficult. But the same thing with Facebook. I mean, you really have to get a group that is committed to cross promotion and not being about themselves. Because when we had a Facebook group, that was a lot of what was going on, is people were just all about themselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, we have that too. We do have our, yeah, we do have our, group of, people that are really dedicated and go out of their way to share and tweet and post, and they come in and they come out. And then we have other people that just post their book and run and wonder why nothing ever happened. But there were 2 like facets to the whole thing that you really have to buy into. And number one is that you're promoting somebody else's book and that's in your category. So a lot of people find that counterintuitive. Why would I do that? But all the books are different and they cover different types of situations, different disease process, different genre. So really you're kind of like not. And at the same time, other people are promoting you. So, you're going to get exposed to the people that they know. And maybe your book might be a better fit for their audience than their own book is. I mean, you just don't know. So that's really important. And the other thing is when I started, like I didn't have this platform. I had nowhere. And now these authors come in and they have a big, robust platform with other people who can support them, as well as providing them with content. So that's usually a real problem for a lot of people is like, well, where am I going to get all this content I need to put out every day or every week? I don't have time. Well, we put out a blog post every week that the authors can copy and paste and use how they would like. And then we also have our social media posts. They can do the same thing, or they can retweet and share. I mean, there's just always something. You could talk about our events. You can talk about our podcast. And the idea is that to present yourself as an authority on the subject matter. So if you were someone who cared for your mom and she had like Lewy body disease, then now you're the expert on that. So you want to present yourself as somebody that's in the know and that you are able to provide people with good knowledge and information that they need. And so then that leads them to then be interested in your book. So it's not just all about your book, buy my book, buy my book. It's more like showing people tips, even every day, something that they can learn, that they can do to help them on their journey. And then that kind of opens them up to maybe saying, well, maybe I'll take a look at her book.
Yes. And I want to address that thing you said about it might be counterintuitive to promote somebody in your group. I am a firm believer in karma. And, people are always looking for that direct, Marianne, I'm going to give you something and you're going to give me something back. And nothing irks me more because the universe, when you share, it brings it back to you. It may not be in the form you think it is, and it may not be when you think you need it, but it always comes back to you tenfold. So, I want to encourage you guys to really get rid of that whole paradigm of thinking, because that's what we do. I've mentioned before, I'm a part of the Dames, and that is part of what the Dames do. I never get it. I never go to someone and say, I gave you this, now give me that. It's,
right.
It just shows up. And then that other piece, I love what you're doing with the content. That's why we have the I Love Content Creation course, is because we hear all the time, I don't have time. I don't know what to do. And breaking it down into those small bites, and even better, having you guys do it and being able to share is amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing putting together an instructional video for the authors to let them know how to use all these different components, because so many different things come back to you, and they have each other that they can use to do interviews. If you're doing a blog and you want to interview somebody, you can contact anybody in the organization. Everybody's looking for publicity. So anybody's going to be willing to come on your blog or come on your podcast or write for you or do something. And it just helps to establish you, the author, as the authority on this topic. So then people will realize that you know what you're talking about when they want to pick up your book.
Yeah, exactly. You and I are both podcasters. So you guys out there who think that you don't have time or you don't have effort, I don't know about you, but literally you sent me the stuff, I talked to you, and we're just having a free-flowing conversation on Zoom. And I think do you use Podetize as well?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay. I assume since Tracy introduced us that you did, but literally you upload it, it's done for you, you guys. It's not a huge deal to have, to do a podcast. Now, getting that traffic is, a little bit harder.
Story.
Yeah, that's a little bit different story. But the beauty of that is when you're driving that traffic, you can drive them into something that they get in your list. And now they're a regular for book introductions and book launches and stuff. So yeah, it really is a good thing. So you're up to about 350 members. Is this a pay group? Is it a free group? How do you guys work?
It's a free group for the most part. We just started charging a $15 submission fee to get your book looked at. But right now we run on the generosity of donors. and authors as well, people who have been very kind and respond to our campaigns for money so that we can keep the website going and everything, because it does. We're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid on our team. There's about half a dozen of us that work daily. We just depend upon the generosity of others at this time. But, we talk about creating a paid platform, but that adds a whole new set of problems. So we're not too sure about that.
Yeah, it definitely can, especially since you guys are sort of a team and a group, and it's not like me who, I'm a company, and I can distribute those proceeds however I wish. You guys probably have a little bit more restraint. So is this fiction, nonfiction, a combination of both when it comes to the Alzheimer's books?
We have everything. We have fiction, nonfiction, memoir, caregiver guides, poetry, art books, photography books, children's books, young adult books, activity books, anthologies. We have everything. We even have podcasts and films.
And what do you guys do with what do you do with the podcasts and films?
Well, we came to a realization after a year or two that as much as all of us love to read, and we went to books when we had questions and concerns and we want answers, we'd go to a book. Well, a lot of people don't read. We know that only the average American reads about 12 books a year, which is a high number. And most caregivers, even if they do enjoy reading, they probably don't have time to read a book. So that's where we got the idea for our podcast. It's like, if people can't sit down and read the book or, go through the blog, maybe they'll listen. You can listen when you do something else. So it's a little more accessible. And so many of the authors in our organization do podcasting. So we feature them. We give them, promos for their podcasts as well. And some of the people we've interviewed, like Lori LeBay, I think she does have a book, but some of them don't have a book. And so that was their entree to AlzAuthors, was their podcast or their film. We have two filmmakers right now, and I'm working with another one. Sometimes that might be the best vehicle for somebody to try to learn something or just to see somebody else's story and kind of see what the similarities are to them in their life, and to know that they're not alone, because caregiving is very isolating, especially in the dementia space. It's very isolating. People feel like they're alone and nobody understands them. And when you can get past that and discover the world outside the door of Alzheimer's world or dementia world, you'll see you're not alone, and we can all help each other.
And in fact, I'm seeing statistics that the number of people who are being diagnosed is going up quite a bit too. So I can't even imagine. So where do we find your group at? If we want to go over and find out more about who you are and what you guys do, you have an application process. How would we submit an application, and what would we need? Because you don't just take anybody, right? There's criteria.
Oh, no. There's very strict criteria. It's in our submission form, which you can find on our website, AlzAuthors, AlzAuthors.com. And you go to the home page and scroll down to the bottom, I think or go to the contact page, and it gives you the info on the submission form. You click that and open that up, and it'll explain to you that, you have to have so many reviews, so many stars. The book has to be available on Amazon. It has to have dementia or Alzheimer's disease as a main theme of the book. And you need to be active on social media. This is a collaboration, so it's not like you post your book and run and everybody's going to lift you up. You have to do, we hope that you would do your part in helping to elevate the group and elevate other authors as well. So the book has to be professionally produced with a professional looking cover, free of typos. We look at the reviews. We do a big research before we even ask the author for the book, and make a determination, as to whether or not we want to take it to the next step. Because reading the books then becomes an obligation on somebody on the acquisitions team.
Right.
So so then we would, the author is asked to submit a hard copy. Copy of the book to the editor, and then the editor will, review it and then get back to them whether or not they're going to extend a spot. And if they do, then the author would need to write the 500 to 1,000 word blog post, and we give them criteria to follow for that, and submit their links and their author photo.
So you guys can go over to the website, go down and look at the submission page. And I loved what you just said. Okay, you guys need to understand about publishing. When they make a commitment, they actually read the whole book. I don't ever read an entire book. So good for
Yeah.
your acquisitions team. I usually, when I get it, I'll read the first couple chapters to see if you need an edit or additional editing, grammar and proofing. But, you know, kudos to you guys. I listen to books all day because if I read one more thing in acquisitions, I just,
Mhm.
I'm mind boggled. So good for you. This is really good. So remember, you guys, you can't just send these people a book. You have to do all the work and get acceptance and send the book so that, you know, they can decide, is this something that we want to promote or
Right.
isn't it? So can you tell us where your website is again and how to get a hold of you?
Sure. It's at AlzAuthors.com, AlzAuthors.com.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing this group with us today. Oh, you know what? Is there a place they can find you on Facebook?
They can find us at AlzAuthors, Alzheimer's and Dementia Resources, and then they can find my personal page under Marianne Sciucco, author.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for being on today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.